It's the first time we've met. We just met backstage. That's why I said, Eric, come on out. I got to at least shake hands with Anatoly before we bring him into the gauntlet. So I won't bite too much. We go back and forth in this like Ethereum killer, L1, like how is this all going to emerge? And how many different kind of like base layer blockchains will there be? And I have to tell you, and I think this is probably something that many other folks, if they just look at the raw numbers and the kind of performance of the Solana ecosystem last cycle, would have to admit, you guys came out of nowhere and grinded out progress to be probably the largest ecosystem after Ethereum and kind of EVM compatible chains. So first off, congratulations.
Thank you.
And no small feat given where you all started. I think some people that are in the room or that don't appreciate kind of the starting point during the last winter don't realize how impressive the run was over the last 24 months. So, I'm curious, just like entrepreneur to entrepreneur, like what do you think the big things were that you got right, kind of culturally DNA for a community to take advantage of the Ethereum pre-merge blockchain, rising fees, kind of like that small opening that I think gave you and a few other L1s a real clear gap to exploit and really be able to rally an ecosystem together around. So what was it beyond just high gas fees on Ethereum that you think really kind of catapulted Solana the last 18 months?
I'd love to say that it was like brilliant strategy, but it was really, I think, a function of necessity. We never had a ton of runway. Yep. We were always like 20 months or lower. So 12 engineers, a very scrappy team. Over 2 years, we built the bare minimum to prove that a fast blockchain that has parallel execution is possible. That meant no EVM support, no like Ethereum like features. We literally just could demo, look, this thing could run something like Serum. And that was it. And that was the right thing to do because devs saw a new technology that gave them new capabilities, and they were curious, and engineers are naturally curious. And that allowed us to build a small ecosystem of folks that, eating glass was like our mantra at the time. Now it's more like surfing glass, but at that time it was really, really rough. The only developer tool we gave people was basically like equivalent to a Linux system call. So it was very, very low-level programming, but it was cheap and fast and a new primitive for parallel execution. And that was really what allowed us to differentiate and build our own community.
Well, the Eat Glass line has always resonated with me because we had our company entire offsite earlier this year, and I don't know if you've ever seen or heard Jocko Willink, the former Navy SEAL. He's got like a terrific clip about everything that can go wrong every single time as people come to him. He just says good. Yep. So it's kind of become a little bit of meme like for the bear market with folks on the Messari team. Good, Eat Glass, a lot of parallels. And I think that's going to be important for folks that are getting off the ground now. It's like, oh shit, did I miss the window? Did I, fundraising is getting tougher. There's not as many recruits hanging up, they're not growing on trees anymore because crypto isn't as sexy as it was 12, 18 months ago. But ultimately, this is the time where you feel the energy in the room. It's a little bit different. It's not shilly or speculative. It's like a builder crowd. So to that point, Eat Glass, execute, like the hungry lion hunts best, or whatever the phrase is. So like that's all true. Now you're at a different stage, right? So now Solana is probably the largest non-EVM ecosystem. How do you view that split? We just had Mo on, let 1,000 blockchains bloom. I think it was kind of the vibe there, and obviously they're just going from 0 to 1, and they're going to have their own challenges and opportunities. But I'll ask you the same question I asked him. Do you think that these L1 ecosystems are going to go the way of the browsers and the mobile operating systems? We'll get into the phone in a minute, where it's really kind of dominated by two players or two standards? Or do you really think it's going to be multiple, kind of application-specific chains that win the day?
So I don't know. I can see the case for both. I think smart contract platforms are back-end systems, and it's really rare for those to have a moat. You rarely, like as a user, care that behind the scenes there's AWS MySQL or Bigtable on Google. You just don't really know or care.
Yep.
And devs can't use those those technologies as a distribution channel to get more businesses. So it's pretty hidden from users. I think what's really different with crypto is that there is an underlying token, and that underlying token has network effects. And that has never been really a thing in backend systems. So you clearly see that with Ethereum as a stickiness for developers, for lending protocols, for NFTs. They don't really cross between, from Ethereum to Solana. So we'll see. Like it's really hard to know. I'm excited about both possibilities.
Yeah. There's two vectors, I'd say, for capture, or real risks that I think the industry needs to overcome the next cycle. So layer 0 maybe is like regulation, right? Like, so what's going to happen there? But in practice, there's two things that I think are concerning when you think about centralization, decentralization, and it's of hardware and mobile operating. So let's talk about the hardware one first, right? Like, especially in proof of stake systems, there's a little bit of a knock that, well, now that Ethereum post-merge and Solana and all these other proof of stake systems, AWS turns off the bill, right? Or kind of turned off the servers and everybody's screwed. Or, there's going to be, censorship, or there's going to be bad code, or, it's just going to be a nightmare. And ultimately that'll be the death knell for some of these L1s that are overly reliant on other centralized cloud services. How have you, Ethereum has thought about this, right? That community's thought about this. They're now going to have to grapple with the reality of it. You guys have been thinking about this since day one. Where are we in your mind on like the journey to decentralization and de-risking that hardware element, that compute element for Solana in particular?
So the safety of the network is never really at risk, because safety depends on at least one copy of one honest copy of the ledger. Yep. Like when shit hits the fan, at least one machine somewhere says, "Hey, look, I have a copy of the ledger. It's signed. We can copy it around the world and restart." So as long as that's true, safety is never violated. But for a why do you need a high-performance blockchain if not for reliable transactions that are in the hundreds of millions per day that are servicing billions of people? And reliability becomes a really, really important issue. And that's the challenge. You can't really build high-performance, reliable networks without relying on high-performance, reliable network hardware. You need fiber. You need fast internet connections. Mm-hmm. And all of those, you look at every ISP in the world, they're basically former government-run monopolies, if not still today. So this is something that I think will be super challenging for crypto in general. We do our best to talk to the validator community and try to decentralize them based on data center, on ASN, on AS provider, and really split this thing out as much as we can, so there is no single point of failure. But it's still really, really tough to imagine how a high-performance network could survive if, United States and Europe all declare that this things have to go away.
Yeah. Which is why I would put regulation as layer 0. I think you can have some applications that persist if things really go sideways. They're trending in the right direction. We're going to have a bunch of folks on the policy side on stage this afternoon to talk about the developments, but you don't want to overcorrect or kind of overthink it. Having said all that, how much of a role are other networks like Filecoin or Arweave, Saga storage, maybe other emerging decentralized kind of hardware solutions? What type of role do you view them playing in the short to medium term, if any? Or is it going to continue to be a rounding error versus what's going on with some of these centralized cloud services?
I'm pretty excited about Filecoin and Arweave and storage especially. I think for public ledgers, it really makes sense to have a copy on one of these. Have a copy in Filecoin, have a copy in Arweave, because you're kind of getting free decentralization a little bit for free that way. I think it should, hopefully, a service provider like Filecoin should start putting some price pressure on an AWS, but we'll see. A lot of those business applications are very sticky, and they're afraid to try things like Filecoin, and there's going to be a period where, like with the internet, folks just didn't trust it until all of a sudden everyone was using, cloud and whatever, and it became second nature. But I remember working at Qualcomm, and they were terrified of using AWS versus on-prem.
Yeah. Yep. All right, let's talk about the good stuff. Where's my phone?
Did you pre-order one? I got one right here.
There it is.
This is.
Look at it. That's a beautiful looking phone.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's it's real. This is built by an amazing OEM. Awesome. Jason Keats is the founder. He's was the architect of iPad Pro. He's like an amazing hardware engineer. He, his crazy stories. He built James Cameron's submarine door, that thing that went to the Mariana Trench.
Yeah.
So he loves materials and hardware and like making a beautiful device. And we were working on the crypto software part of it, the Solana mobile stack. And this all came about because, there's kind of two things happening in crypto. Applications are getting more sophisticated, and they're dealing with much more complex media and interactions. And self-custody is still dangerous and sucks. And when you look at your phone, you kind of feel like, why isn't this my hardware wallet? Like, why, why are we storing seed phrases inside the application that's doing all these very complicated things? So that was part one. And part two is decentralization is enabling true real-world digital assets that's just never been done before. When you buy a movie from Amazon, buy to own, you don't actually own that content. You're renting it from Amazon, for that $20 forever, and it may disappear sometime in the future. So they own the content at the end of the day. But with Web3, the user generates the content, and the user owns it. And Magic Eden can't add a 30% tax on that content in a mobile app. There's no way you can take a $10,000 NFT and sell it for $13,000 in the iOS App Store.
Yeah.
And they can't eat that cost either. So the business model just doesn't work. Like Web3 is about true digital assets being real things. That means they have to be treated like physical items. And that really hurts all the folks at Apple and Google that want to take 20 to 30% off every digital transaction. So this is kind of these two things coming together is a big opportunity. Can we make the signing experience awesome and delightful like Apple Pay? Can we make custody as simple as just owning your phone? And can we give devs an app store where crypto is treated as a first-class citizen so they can build these amazing applications?
And we all know how successful the Facebook phone and the Windows phone have been.
I worked on those at Qualcomm.
You did? Okay. So it is important to have this historical context, right? This, I think the news came out, I thought it was exciting just because that it probably reduces one censorship threat, even if a little bit marginally. I almost view it a little bit more as like a test net for a mobile operating system built on Solana, because ultimately, I don't know if that phone is going to be successful, but you need something not versus the iPhone or versus a Samsung device, but something versus iOS and Android. And hopefully you can sideload a crypto first or crypto native OS as an alternative in case Apple ever shuts things off, Google ever shuts things off. And I don't think people fully appreciate that risk. Is that how you think about it? Or do you think the hardware is a really important penetration point for not only for Solana, but for crypto kind of period?
I think we thought about just building an Android image and going that route. But I think having really, really good hardware is just here's an example of what the best version of this could be. It sets the standard like Pixel. Pixel is not the biggest selling Android phone out there. But Google is making it because they want to show that if you put in the effort, you can make an awesome Android device. So similarly, we want to show that you can have an awesome, fully integrated crypto mobile phone that has that amazing experience. But obviously, it would be, I think, a huge win if SMS was integrated up to Android or even Samsung.
Yeah, the most valuable real estate in the world is in that 4 inches in your hand, right?
Yeah.
So the understanding are people going to be carrying around two devices, right? Like their crypto phone and their regular phone?
This is the first time I've seen anyone tweet that they're willing to give up their iPhone for an Android device.
How much did you pay them?
Nothing. They paid us $100. But a lot of folks said that they'll have a second device as well. People don't quite understand in the US that Android actually sells way more phones than Apple outside of the United States.
Yep.
And crypto is actually very popular outside of the United States, and it is quite a very large movement. Most of the teams are non-US, most of the users are non-US, and there's a really big opportunity for this crypto mobile experience to actually mature and run away from like the way things are done in the US with Apple and Google.
Where do you think the biggest pickup is going to be in terms of the initial application development? Do you think it'll be in DeFi? Do you think it'll be more in like the gaming NFT side of things?
Probably NFTs, I think, in terms of user numbers. But a lot of DeFi...
NFTs make sense because the 30% take rate that you mentioned, you're just not going to give that to iOS. Like, it just doesn't make sense as an artist to do that. But is that going to be just like Bored Apes, or do you think there's going to be a lot of gaming companies that ultimately try to penetrate this phone in particular with the in-game digital goods?
This is what's going to happen with NFTs. Are we going to see NFTs fracture into different applications? Some brand development, some storytelling and lore, and some are gaming. And I think probably all three of the above. I'm pretty excited about gaming because I was a gamer. My first experience in like Ultima Online was sending somebody a cashier's check to buy a sword. So you kind of have a very natural like user interaction that already exists in most games, just becoming better with crypto. And that's really rare that you take an application and it's now better because of crypto. So that's I think is a bigger opportunity for gaming than I think anything else.
Anything else to announce today? I know you got Breakpoint coming up. I'm going to be coming to Lisbon. I missed it last year. I heard it was great. That was probably the euphoric, kind of madhouse. I think this year will be more maybe my vibe, your vibe, a little bit more subdued, builder centric. But
it's more people this year signed up. Like
good. High class problem to have. So I know you're going to be saving a bunch of announcements for then. Anything else kind of coming out in the interim that you want to tease?
I mean, as folks have heard, Helium is having a vote to move their entire application stack over to Solana, dropping their own L1. I think we'll probably see, there's a lot of folks that have built their own layer ones for a single application, and at some point you realize that building a layer one is really, really hard. To scale it to a very large validator set, to build second clients that have a parallel implementation that guarantees safety and reliability, this is a lot of work. And if that's not your core reason, right, to exist, it becomes, kind of a simple proposition. Well, why don't we use an existing solution? So I think we'll see a lot of that in the future.
Where does the mobile phone and mobile ecosystem fit on your list of priorities? If you look at 2023, 2024, is this number one, or what are the top three things aside from mobile OS?
So Solana Labs is a pretty small company. It's like 70 people, and this is the second, outside of the core validator client, where performance and reliability are the top priorities. This is the second biggest project we're working on. So we're lucky that Phantom built an amazing wallet, Magic Eden built an amazing marketplace. Like all of this stuff happened outside of Labs in the ecosystem, and we always try to figure out, well, what should we build internally? And the mobile phone is one of those things that I felt like nobody else could really do. And even if it fails, this is a really important experiment to run. We really need to show what first-class crypto experience can look like on a mobile device.
Yeah, you take out the 30% VIG, you include a secure element a la Ledger, so you don't have to carry around a hardware device, and it's just a little bit more seamless. And
it just makes sense, right?
It does make sense. I'm waiting for the catch. I got to play around with it myself, and then I'll give a full breakdown and the Walt Mossberg version of my review.
We should have developer devices at breakpoints. So if you're a dev, come to Breakpoint, you'll be able to play around with V0 version of the seed vault and signing experience.
Breakpoint's the only other conference I'll shill.
Awesome.
So I'm gonna be in Lisbon in a couple months. Looking forward to it, and really appreciate you coming on. Look at this. This is good clock management. It's like I've done this before.
Yeah.
Thank you for the good conversation, and we're gonna keep moving it right along. Anatoly.